Are we ready? I don't know if we're called up or not, but if I am, then I'm ready. Good evening and welcome to the Corporation of the Town of Kirkland Lake, meeting of council held October the 17th, 2017. Before we start our meeting, I have a notice to read at its meeting of November the 7th, 2017. Council will consider a bylaw to sell 485 Archer Drive. So we'll start our meeting, please, with a moment of silence. Thank you. We have the item 2 is the approval of the agenda.
A motion that's moved by Councillor Kiley and seconded by Councillor Barker, that Council approves the agenda for its regular meeting of October 17, 2017, with the removal of bylaw 17-015 and a deferral to a future meeting date.
All in favor? That's carried. Item 3, is there any declaration of pecuniary interest? None declared. Item 4, under petitions and delegations, we have the pleasure today of welcoming Cesar Ferrero, the Contemporary Art Committee President. So, Cesar, please. And also, I'm sorry I didn't, Liz Pacey is with Cesar today. Yep. So please make sure your mics are on.
Hello. Hello. Can you hear me well?
Yep.
Okay. First, I want to thank you for the opportunity that we have to present our project and tell you what we are doing. I'm going to read initially the letter that we submit for this application, but there has been a lot going on, and many things, very good things, has happened from the moment that we submitted this letter up to today that I need to mention, because I think that there will be important aspects to consider when about what we are asking. Please accept this letter as our application for a reduced rate for the use of municipal facilities in support of our annual exhibit. This rate will be parallel to preferred pricing for the use of municipal facilities available to sports groups under the town's sport tourism strategy, and will reflect the comparative importance of the arts in attracting tourism to Kirkland Lake, cultural tourism. The Contemporary Arts Committee is one of the leading proponents of art and cultural tourism in Kirkland Lake. Since our inception in 2007, we have a series of highly successful annual exhibitions featuring artists from around the world. Some of the highlights include a collaborative paint project featuring Julie Oakes. I want to stop there because some of you are familiar that Julie Oakes was married to Sir Harry Oakes' grandson. And the Willisville Mountain Project, which is a project that we were able to bring to the town that featured 45 artists, reflecting the beauty of La Cloche region. Since 2015, we have brought to Kirkland Lake international recognized artists from Brazil, Colombia, Mexico, Taiwan, Israel, Argentina, Spain, and Chile. Future exhibitions include partnerships with Toller Cranston Foundation to celebrate Kirkland Lake's centennial year. All events have a real and lasting impact in our community through the workshops and traveling exhibits we organize. In this moment, we count with partnerships with the Sculpture Society of Canada, with the Temiskaming Art Gallery in Haileybury, WKP Kennedy Gallery, and Whitewater Gallery in North Bay. Our work has truly established Kirkland Lake as the hub of art and culture in northeastern Ontario and northwestern Quebec, Attendance to an annual basis is 300 to 400 people, with roughly 65% coming from out of town. These events are dependent on municipal facilities to succeed. The exhibits take place at the Museum of Northern History, while our annual fundraising gala takes place at Heritage North every October. As a non-for-profit, we enjoy a 25% discount on the room rates at each facility. This has been very helpful, but it still leaves our group with a significant financial burden that we will much rather put towards improving our events and attracting more people. Council has seen it fit to support a sports group facing a similar situation with reduced or waived fees for the use of municipal facilities. We would like to ask for the same consideration at Heritage North for room rentals associated or contributing towards our annual exhibit. The economic impact on Kirkland of this fee waiver will be significant. We will put more money into attracting leading artists to Kirkland for a longer period of time. This will immediately lead to extended hotel stays. We will put more money into marketing. We know that there is interest in our events from as far as Sudbury, Norway, Nuran, Rwanda. But I want to mention that for this year's gala, that is this Friday, we have 8 people that are performing and are coming from Toronto. We will attract more people. That translates into more tourism dollars being spent in Kirkland Lake. Thank you for taking the time to consider this request. I look forward to your response. I said that we need to mention a few important aspects. I need to explain also, because some of you are not familiar with what it is happening with Kirkland Lake into the arts. We created an exhibition that has 2 components. One component is that we bring one artist, and inspired to the work that this artist does, we made a call for submissions open to everybody. Initially, when we started this project, we thought that it was going to be a small project, only featuring artists around the community. But our project has grown more than what we expected to grow. The project became really strong, and we are getting applications from all over the world in this moment. I want to mention that for some people, this might sound like, how is that possible? How did this happen in Kirkland? Well, in this moment in the world, contemporary art, you don't need to be in New York to make good art. You need to make art anywhere where the places are, at the facility is, where the venue is. And then, once the project is presented, we posted everything in the internet and social media, and the project gets everywhere. So we have initially the exhibition and have these 2 components. Slowly, the project grew to the point that we were not having a space to bring the guest national artists, only an international artist. And we created the gala in order to bring and sponsor the contemporary exhibition. The gala, in its own, became a very strong project, because now we are bringing artists from different places to perform at the gala. The gala has dancers, musicians, theater people, visual art performances. So what has happened during this year is that our exhibit, instead of being 1 month, now is going to be 2 months. The first month is going to be in the month of March, featuring the national artists, and the month of April, featuring the international artists. For our national artist this year, we are going to bring Amanda Scott. She is an artist who is doing a very interesting project about the healing process of First Nation peoples and immigrants coming to Canada. This project is beyond our reach, so for that reason, we have to collaborate with other companies. And we are talking to Viver and Mental Health Center, which they are going to be collaborating with Amanda to do all the workshops that she's going to be doing in the town. We are only facilitating and helping to do the project, the visual art project. Then, in the month of April, we will have Suko Park. Suko Park is an artist that is coming from Korea. He's currently living in Finland, but his work stands in over 26 museums around the world. In Canada, we have some of his works at the ROM, the Royal Ontario Museum, at the Canadian Clay and Glass Gallery in Kitchener-Waterloo. For 2019, we are going, I want to explain something about the guest artist. The guest artist comes and stays with us usually for a month, so they can do the work that they are going to present at the museum here in Canada. Many times, it's very difficult that these artists can bring all the work, so they have to make it here. For 2019, our centennial year, Kirkland Lake Centennial, we are going to bring Toller Cranston, and we have created a partnership with the Toller Cranston Foundation. Some of you know that Toller Cranston grew in Kirkland Lake. He was not born here, but his teenage life, he was here. Then he moved to Mexico after being an Olympic medalist, and he did most of his work in Mexico. The same exhibition that was shown at the AGO is coming to Kirkland Lake. His paintings are going to be at the museum, but Toller Cranston was known also for doing a whole other kind of objects. He made jackets, pants, boots. He designed his own costumes and some very interesting objects with lights. So some of these objects are going to be in display at the museum, and we are organizing with the foundation in order to show the paintings for a month, but then leave all these other objects and use all the entire museum so people during the year can see more of this exhibition. When we collaborate with Heritage North about the gala, what we are asking here today is only a waiver for the rental fee, because we do pay for linens, utensils, dishes, and the kitchen. And very important, we don't want to deal with selling the liquor. So we leave this for the Heritage North so they can do that in their own, with their own insurance and everything. So we don't cover that. There is something that is very important to mention today, and we are very proud of telling this, is that hospitals around the world, they all have art collections. So we presented a project early this year to our Kirkland Lake Hospital in order to try to leave some of the works that our guest artists do, or the people that apply to the calls for submission and are the award winners, and leave these pieces in Kirkland Lake and leave them at the museum, at the hospital. The hospital has a lot of walls and has a space, and we needed a place to host these works. The project was presented to the CEO, Gary Smith. He presented the project to the council in the hospital, and it was a long process, but it was approved. So all the works starting from this year are going to be kept in Kirkland Lake, and the other only hospital that has something similar to this is North Bay Hospital, other than the hospitals in Toronto. The opening of this event is going to be in 2019 as well, for the centennial. We created 2 important awards, and one of these is very important to mention, is that when we created an award that is to honor an established visual artist. We call it Art Recognition Award, and it's to give a recognition to a Northern Ontario artist. 2 years ago, I presented an application to give an award to Lionel Vene. Probably some of you know him. He is an artist who traveled around the world and presented his work. He lives very near this community. He's not from Kirkland Lake, but he lives near here. And when I submitted the application, he was competing with some of the artists from Toronto. And it was really an unfair situation to try to balance the 2 things. We were competing with the Toronto Symphony Orchestra. We were competing with the National Ballet of Canada. We were competing with the Theatre Festival in Sudbury. I'm not saying that we are less, or that these artists had not the qualifications to be with them, But there are a lot of politics behind this, the approval or giving an award to an artist like that. And so instead of waiting for one of our artists to get that award, we created our own award. We are also giving a new award this year that is going to be called a Student Recognition for a Prospect in Arts. We have spoken with Eric Bachman, Lasha Laroom, I hope I spelled that correctly. And we are going to give an award to one student who is a promising figure in the arts. So to conclude, basically, I have told you what we've done, what we intend to do. We are very happy to see and to understand that the project has grown. We are not afraid of keeping it growing and leave it and continue to it. We are in our 11th year. And we think that we have brought cultural tourism to the town, and we are organized to keep going. So thank you for your participation and your help. And if you have any questions, we're happy to give it.
I just have a comment. I think it's on. It's on. I just have a comment to make. We know that Kirkland Lake has a very strong sport and hockey profile here in this town, and we're very proud of it. I think we have a really unique opportunity here with Cesar Ferrero. He is a full-time international artist. He puts in a tremendous amount of work and effort to bring these events to our town, and we really need, we are an exceptional group, and we really do need the town's support to raise the profile of art and culture in this town. I thank you very much.
Thank you.
Any
Councillors,
questions?
Questions, comments? Councillor Barker.
Just a quick comment. I'd like to thank Cesar, Liz, and the Contemporary Arts. The quality that you bring to Kirkland Lake is incredible. It does compare to those the quality of arts that you see in Toronto and in the bigger city centers, and it's amazing that we can get that experience here in Kirkland Lake. We should be very proud of your accomplishments, and look forward to supporting you moving forward.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Councillor Shamier.
Yeah, Cesar, I think you came in town about 10 years ago, 11 years ago?
Yes, 11
So did you
years.
start
The first year I came here.
Okay, yeah, that's what I thought. And I remember when you came in, there was a big difference in town. The artists were quite excited, actually. And they have been excited for the last 11 years. What you do is unbelievable. And the name you mentioned, I'm not an artist, and Liz could feel that. I'm more an athlete, but I mean, we hear your name all the time. I didn't meet you for about 5 or 6 years before you were in town, but I knew what you were, and I know what you did. And I mean, I raise my hat to all the hard work you do, and the Art Council now is a big part of town. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Councillor Mino.
You're falling right down the alley of my preference in terms of interpreting the sports tourism strategy. Maybe we should change the name, because I've been pushing this for a while about bringing in out-of-town people for that tourism side of things. Maybe we should change it to the sports culture tourism strategy, but I'm certainly in favor of this event, and I would fully support it. Have you spoken with either Wilf or Bonnie on
Yeah,
this already?
we've been working with Wilf.
Okay, so
This letter, actually, we work together on it.
So you have the details.
We have a lot of help from them.
Okay. But the thing is, there's a council bylaw of sorts that actually speaks to this sports tourism strategy, which I would like to see it obviously expand to the cultural side of things. Now, we also gave Bonnie some latitude as to how to interpret this, but I'm sure council today would give her full support into accommodating you to the best of our possibilities.
Thank you
And
very
then
much.
perhaps we could actually modify our sports tourism strategy down the road as we go. But this fits, the criteria is excellent. You're bringing in people from out of town, they're staying in hotels, they're gonna generate the economy that was desired in putting this together, and therefore you have my full support.
Thank you very much. Something that I just want to say is that, of course, we're asking for something that was not here before. We didn't have this. We didn't even know. We didn't know how it was going to turn. It's different than a sports event. It's different. It's still a lot of people. It might bring a crowd like a sport event, but we don't know. We are just going as the things have happened.
Yep.
Thank you very much.
Yeah, and certainly, you know, Cesar, I echo what Councillor Barker and Councillor Mino, Councillor Shamiar just said. And especially what Liz said a few moments ago is that over the past 10 years, you've really opened up Kirkland Lake to contemporary arts. You brought to the forefront, you know, we live in a mining town and a sports town, but you brought a whole new aspect to our community, and just to be recognized by throughout the world. You've worked very, very hard over the years. We're certainly thrilled, and we have been thrilled to have you in our community. You've opened up a whole new way of living for a lot of people in this community. And as the other councillor said, I certainly support your endeavor, and we're here to help you in any way that we can. That being said, there is a resolution.
It's moved by Councillor Barker, seconded by Councillor Kiley, that council approves the request from the Contemporary Art Committee to waive room rentals at the Heritage North and the Museum of Northern History for the Contemporary Art Fundraising Gala and Art Exhibit.
Any other questions, comments, or, please?
Just to make sure, so that falls under the sports tourism, that's exactly what it is, eh?
It'll fall under the sports.
So Liz, you know you have to fill out some forms at the end, eh? Bonnie, have forms to fill out, who stayed in town, how many hotel rooms, all this, so Bonnie has all that.
Yeah.
But just that you know, you'll have that to fill out. It's not a big deal,
Okay,
but you just have to be done.
figure out.
Yeah, that,
We'll figure it out.
yeah, no, it is.
And Bonnie or Wilf will help you.
Okay.
Yeah, it'll be a very easy thing to do. But do I have a vote on that? All in favor? That's unanimous, and thank you very much for coming.
Thank you very much.
And
Okay.
thank you both,
Thank
and
you,
thank
Liz.
you for being part of the community.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, item 5 on the agenda is acceptance of minutes and recommendations.
It's moved by Councillor Kiley, seconded by Councillor Barker, that council accepts the minutes of the following meetings. The minutes of the Planning Advisory Committee held June 1st, 2017. Minutes of the Committee Adjustment held July 7th, 2017. Minutes of the meeting to open tenders for tax sale properties held September 27th, 2017. Minutes of the regular meeting of council held October 3rd, 2017. Minutes of the meeting to open proposals for ground preparation and maintenance of the cross-country ski trails held October 6, 2017. Minutes of the meeting to open tenders for the asphalt crushing held October 6, 2017. Minutes of the meeting to open tenders for the 2017-18 stockpiled screen sand for winter sanding held October 6, 2017.
Any discussions on that? All in favor? And that's carried. Thank you. Item number 6 is the report of municipal officers. Peter, you're going to speak on A, the ARB representatives, repealing bylaw 17-074.
Yeah, so the first one is basically to update some procedural issues that we have to do as part of the legislation changes to how the assessments, for property assessments will be, lack of better words, I guess, downloaded a bit to municipal governments. So we are just updating a bylaw that was previously passed by this council earlier in the summer in July, just to be more, to add the better language. It's essentially appointing the treasurer designate to be appointed as the Assessment Review Board Appeal Representative, appoint the clerk and or designate to be appointed as the Assessment Review Board Complaints Representative, to repeal the old bylaw and to have this bylaw take effect. So it's a pretty standard procedural stuff. We're kind of legislated by it, so.
Any, Councillor Mino?
Peter, does the treasurer side of things, does that have to be somebody that's in treasury? Or
Sorry?
because you have one that says the treasurer.
Yep.
Or designate. Does it have to be somebody that's in treasury?
It would probably be somebody, either the treasurer or the tax collector,
Okay.
or somebody that can speak to the technical issues.
So there's enough latitude to allow
Yeah.
them? Because I was thinking of the same thing with the, obviously, the collector.
Most of the time, I would assume that for initial screening will be the tax collector. Right, so.
Okay, that'll be coming back in a bylaw. And item B, Peter, on 6B.
So this is a couple things here. Basically, the first item to talk about here, earlier this year when council approved the 2017 operating and capital budgets, they had increased the tax rate for Bernhardt and Morissette from 35 to 40%. What we are asking for today is to simply reverse that, just as part of a due process. It's part of the process that we need to follow. We will be either crediting and/or issuing a refund for the amount that we have already collected from the residents of those two townships. The second point deals with, I guess, a longer-term issue as it relates to the tax rate policy with the 1984 annexation agreement from townships of Bernhardt and Morissette. Basically, we had done, staff have done a bit of research on this, have received some legal advice, talked to a slew of ministry and government officials on how to proceed with this. And they're all pointing to town council having the ultimate authority in providing a uniform tax rate across the municipal territory. So as we were researching this, we did find some other pockets of town areas that are not getting the same level of services for taxation. The residents of Harvey Kirkland on the town of Kirkland Lake territorial boundary side, and some other parts. I believe one was in Chappie Hughes, and I can't remember off the top of my head of the other location. So what we're using this for is trying to equalize and bring fairness to services and taxation. We do not have a recommendation today for council to consider, other than what we would like to do is have a public town hall meeting with the residents that will be affected, to chat with them, to listen to them, to see how we could administer and implement this with various options, to hear their concerns, and then formulate a potential recommendation back to council to deal with. The process in updating this is pretty straightforward. It's basically giving a 30-day notice to repeal an old bylaw and pass a new bylaw, and it takes effect eventually at that time. Phasing it in, how we phase it in, we are looking at various options. Of course, we are constrained with the Municipal Act on how the Municipal Act interprets if residents or taxpayers already have that service available, how do you phase in something that they should be paying for already? So there are some other legal challenges. Again, this, we hope to have better information for the residents and hear from them specifically. The intent, again, is not to, it's not to be seen as to penalize any particular area of the territory within Kirkland Lake. It's basically to equalize tax policy right across the board. It has been done in other jurisdictions. Specifically, other jurisdictions have a lot of rural areas, unserviced areas. So we're basically, bringing up to code some, the municipal world has also changed since 1984. The airport back in '84 was subsidized by the federal government. It is in the early '90s. It was divested by the federal government. Obviously, when the Premier Mike Harris was elected, a whole bunch of provincially funded service got downloaded, including ambulance, public health, which were never part of 1984 agreement, and just the way the costing model of OPP and other services that have evolved over time. In addition, earlier this year, the town has moved sewer or wastewater off the tax levy and onto the direct billing. So that was one of the original reasons why the township, when they originally annexed, is because they were not provided water and sewer services, and that was part of the original 1984 tax levy. That was part of the original reason the municipal board was ruled to keep their levy at 35%. So all these changes have transpired over the last 30-some years, that this is a modernization process, and at this point, we simply want to speak to the residents, let them know what we know, invite them to hear their comments, to engage with them, and educate them as well. Again, the meeting is on Tuesday, the 14th of November. Heritage North at 6 p.m. So hopefully, we'll have some good discussions at that meeting and good Q&A.
Questions? Counselor Kiley?
Yes, just to clarify, it's an open meeting. Can we, like, counselors can attend, but there's no voting going on, so provide input if they wish, but like, personally, I would rather see counselors participating in this presentation, question and answer period, along with yourself, obviously. And whether that can be as a committee of the whole meeting. I was looking for a little clarification if that's possible, because I did receive a call, not from the author of the email today, but from some resident out there, and they wanted council to attend to be able to provide input as well. Is it
I guess-
possible to do it as a?
I guess it's, I think it's one of the reasons of having a public consultation outside of the parliamentarian rules
Yep.
is to allow for maximum flexibility of engagement. The moment you bring a council committee, whether it's committee of a whole, it is governed by specific rules, duration, types of questions, procedures. So I have no preference. I guess my individual preference would be that to help answer the residents concerned, it's probably best left outside of a council structure and have a back and forth. Having councilors present to participate in a public forum is okay. I'm going to defer to the clerk on the rules of having 4 councilors at a meeting together, and what does that, yeah.
4 counselors makes it a public meeting, and therefore it would have to fall under having, whether it be a committee of a whole or a regular meeting, and the rules of procedure as set out in the procedure bylaw would take effect.
I guess my concern is because when we have delegations, like tonight, if there was an issue with the citizen, they do their presentation, council doesn't get to respond. The presentation is more to the mayor and council, but then the town employee answers. And there isn't, in the past, the history, we haven't had much input. And at least having our voice heard is my concern. I think there's a lot of issues with this. Some of them were pointed out today, whether they're correct or not in that email that we received from their committee. But I would like council to be able to participate to some extent. And certainly not to vote, because there's not gonna be a vote or anything like that passed, or.
Yeah, now if, I guess council will be making a decision at some point, so they do have a voice to participate at some point. If it's beforehand, I'm trying to keep this from my end as an administrative, technical, a meeting, answer technical questions of, how it's gonna affect homeowners and individualize it, versus the moment you involve politicians, it may become a political event, which if council does, that's one of the segregation of duties between the office of the elected office versus the administrative office. And by it becoming politicized, by the very nature that if it does go that way, staff have to pack up and leave. Because then it becomes a meeting between yourself and your electorate versus a technical, how do we solve this? What are the technical aspects of administering this program, right? And that's if we don't, if a couple councilors show up, and that's the way it goes. If obviously 4 councilors show up, then we're under the Municipal Act governance. So from a I guess
I assume that's going to happen anyway, Peter,
what's going to happen?
that 4 out of the 7 members of council will show up.
Oh, then we'll have to call a regular meeting.
Yeah.
And that's fair, and that's it might be not what the residents like. We'll be restricted to what the residents. We will be restricted. We, the staff, will be restricted to how we respond to residents. Is what I'm saying. just similar as they would be restricted here. So I don't have to have a town hall meeting. I could have one here, and they can go through the regular meeting. It's just that we're restricted to what we can do, because every individual has to come up, delegate, ask a question, right, specifically through the mayor, through the council, about this. And they're not asking a staff recommendation. They're debating input.
Yeah,
Right,
well, I think
so-
what's gonna happen then, Peter, is you're gonna get 4 or 5 councilors show up, and you're gonna have to switch to a regular, open council meeting. So, it's gonna happen anyway.
Councilor Roman?
I had a question regarding the timeline for this process. You're saying that there's sort of a 30-day posting period if something's
Recommended.
to take place. Now, does that need to occur in 2017 in order that it's applied to the 2018 tax year? Or can this carry over into 2018 and then be applied back to January 1st like we do with the rest of our budget regulations?
Yeah, so the process, basically right now, when we do the 2018 budget, they're getting voted on as a 35%. If the tax rate policy changes between the time we vote on the 2018 budget, they'll be affected by whatever that tax rate is. So whichever one comes first. If we do the 2018 budget before we do the tax rate policy update, then 2018 is not impacted, right? If we do this first and then do the 2018 budget, which is probably, January, February, then it will be impacted, so.
Councilor Shamiart?
Yeah, Peter, I understand your problem with I think that meeting should be with you and your staff and the resident. And we have to make sure there's not 4 counselor. If it's 4 want to go, then the meeting's over basically, because people cannot talk unless they have been asked to talk before. So nobody has asked, so then there'll be no meeting. So,
Well, there's a whole bunch of rules.
yeah, I
and
know, you have
that's-
to follow the
yeah,
rules,
yeah.
that's why, Pat, it's somewhat, we have to make a say, okay, if somebody wants to go, I won't go. I understand how it goes, that's a regular meeting. The second thing, just coming back to Jim's question, good question. So we will vote at some point, well, we'll discuss this too, but we could also go gradually increasing. We're not gonna increase in one shot, well, anyway, that's my idea. So we would decide that later, I guess. And we could decide pretty much whatever we want there.
That's still up for
Oh.
debate with the municipal act.
Yeah.
It's one of those challenges that if the service is already being provided, the rules are, the law basically states if, for example, pick a service, if they're getting police service,
Yeah,
they should be paying their fair share for police service.
Yeah,
Right,
yeah.
update modernization under the new cost
because
control.
everybody pays police service.
Correct, right, so, yeah. So it's just the way we implement it, how we phase it in, there are other phase-in options.
Okay.
Again, this is, I don't want to go into the technical stuff
No, no.
until that meeting, because but there are other phase-in options. I want to hear from the residents. And there's also the regular municipal act, how we collect taxes. So I think it's premature, and that's why we didn't want to make a recommendation, just because we want to listen, hear, how about, and what's the best way do we phase this in?
Yeah.
Now, the issue about bringing in going back to Pat's question about bringing in a counselors, it will restrict the meeting. That would be my impact, right? And we will restrict it. How it actually goes down, how restrictive is, I'll leave it to the rules of the clerk, because those are the rules we'll have to play by if 4 counselors do show up.
Another thing, Peter, you should do, I don't want to tell you what to do, but maybe talk to Will, Bonnie, maybe Tony, Norm, because there have been some precedent done there. And it's way before my time even, and I know Jim might know too, there's some stuff that's going on there. I know you read a lot and you're learning all the time. You know all the new stuff that you contacted the province and learn all this, but there's also some background thing that we have to remember, if we have to put all this together. Anyway, there's a lot of,
Yeah, at the end of the day, this is a political decision.
yeah,
It's not an administrative decision, right? So at the end of the day, the elected representatives they're the final say on this. And that's what my report is basically saying, because there was confusion that that people may be able to appeal it to the municipal board or to go to, and what we've come back is basically there is no appeal. The appeal body is town council. That's it. So that's the only decision-making body, but nobody can, this decision does not get appealed to any other
Yeah, yeah.
provincial ministry.
And my last point too, sorry, Tony.
No, go ahead.
I know Pat wants a counselor there to answer, but I don't know for the best one to answer, because you guys have been spending a lot of time with the province learning stuff too, and learning how it's done. I mean, I don't know how we could answer anything about this, because we probably don't know more.
I don't think it's just answering.
Counselor, I'm sorry.
It's asking questions.
I'm sorry,
as
could I
well.
just, we just got to, Pat, you're going to be after Counselor
Okay.
Roman. Counselor Roman, you had your hand up.
With regards to this issue of four counselors showing up, if they don't participate, why is it an issue? Because like if four of us show up at a movie, the same movie,
You're right. But this is an issue that, that could be seen to further the business of the municipality. If four of you show up, I would be there definitely, and I would have to make sure that you don't sit near each other and don't talk, and that would be part of the job that I would do, that you are not talking and making decisions to further the business of the
I'm just trying to
municipality.
understand
And that's a
the
good,
logic behind it.
good recommendation.
Okay.
Any other comments? I'm sorry, Counselor Kylie.
Yeah, my point was, as a counselor, trying to get more information as well. It's a learning, this is a learning experience. It's not something that's happened, well, it's 30-some years now. So, to learn more about it and the mechanics of it, it's not to put the CAO or anybody on alert or to question them, but to get more information, and I think that's why I want to attend.
So just to clarify, you don't want a committee of a whole, but you just want to be there like Jim does to
Well,
listen and participate without talking to your fellow councilors. I think there is agreement that councilors want to come. I think I get that, my sense. It's just how do we make it work without following it under the procedural bylaw? I think that's where, unless you're wanting it to follow a procedural bylaw. Is that what you're recommending?
Well, I was hoping if there was some easier way of doing it that we could participate. I don't want to just sit there like a bump on a log. I want to get some information as well, but today I can't tell you whether I'm going to ask you a question.
Yeah, and
may
I guess
happen.
my similar analogy would be through like a budget process that I'm familiar with, is the staff make a presentation to council, the public get to participate in a delegation, posing whatever they like about the budget or what they don't like about the budget or whatnot. They get to be consulted, and then at some point, whatever the staff recommendation is, the councilors and the councilors alone get to deliberate and ask questions of the staff to clarify or whatever. But I think it's the, and I'll defer back to the clerk, but I believe that's the political process that we play in, that your role isn't to be out at the public consultation stage to participate there. Your role is to be here. You're welcome to come and listen and hear, and then go off and talk to your electorate and your constituents. But for you to stand up and say, I think that, this is my idea, Pete, can you do that or that? I think that kind of circumvents the municipal act duties of a councillor. Like, your role is back to deliberate here when the recommendation comes in front. So, there's a fine line, and I'm not trying to put up a barrier. I'm just trying to outline the difference between your role as a councillor and your role as joining a public consultation session. Right? So.
I can understand your concern. I don't want this thing turning into a three-ring circus either. I'm like Councillor Chamillard. I'm thinking, I'm ahead of myself here, but I would like to see a phased-in process if it is approved. But that's for later discussion.
Counselor Mino.
You're asking for a direction from council. So the direction would be for us to approve to you to go and organize this meeting. My suggestion would be to have the mayor present to issue a statement to those in attendance regarding what's happening, what's to be done, because it's an official business of the town of Kirkland Lake. So I would suggest that the mayor be there as the official municipal representative. And just like we do for conferences, we always, we vote ahead of time who's going, like whose delegates are going. If Pat wants to go, I would certainly say, go ahead, Pat. If he goes on his own, then go in. I'll remove my name. I think Jean-Guy has removed his name, and I don't know what about the other people are, but if that brings it down to less than 4, then, you know, we're all right. Otherwise, we can designate a counselor to be there as a representative. We have AFMO representation, we have the library board representation. We could make a subcommittee or
So I guess, again, I would have to distinguish between the administrative role and the elected official's role.
Yeah.
So what would the elected official, whether it's a mayor or whoever else, what would their role be at a public consultation event?
Well, the public consultation involves $21 million of assessment. So it's a pretty significant number, and therefore, if the mayor's there, it's important.
Right, and again, I know I keep coming back to the segregation between the administration.
Yeah.
So nothing is stopping the elected officials to have their own constituent meetings. You are welcome to go and have your own constituent meetings in Bernhardt and Morissette.
This is representing the council at that meeting only by one member officially. The other ones, if they go, fine. If it's to simplify less than 4, then like I say, I'm pulling my name out. And then we could do right here at the table, and that'll be solved for that meeting. The other thing is, we as a council, we only respond to reports to council, usually when we make decisions. So this is not like, this is gathering information. It's not the actual report anyways.
Right. That's right.
So,
Yeah.
I don't have to be there.
No.
Because I base my decision based on what my staff gives me and what my legal representation gives me on all this. I don't have to hear the arguments, you know, that my tax is this and that, you know, I shop in town, and, you know, you're gonna hear them all, right? And I don't think I'm at that level in terms of how I'm going to base my decision on. But because of the nature of the $21 million assessment, and it probably has an impact, probably about $270,000 difference.
Well, it does, but then I'm going to probably have a town hall meeting with the budget, so hopefully
Yeah,
you get the
well,
same people showing up to the
exactly.
budget.
Exactly, but this,
Right,
this is
so-
a courtesy thing, more,
Yeah.
it's more courtesy than anything else. And I'm saying that the mayor might want to be there to just make a statement, a prepared statement to those in attendance. The other thing too, Peter, is you're going there, is there a voice? Is there a voice of people from Bernhardt and Morissette that you're actually addressing to, or is it just anybody?
There is no, legally, we're responsible for all 224 homeowners, or property owners.
So
So
those,
we can't pick and choose
okay,
elect-
so
like
you're
a group.
talking to all
Everybody's
residents.
invited, yes,
You're going to be talking to all residents there.
right.
In that one first meeting. There could be other meetings where you
Yeah.
start dealing with a representation of the groups, right?
Yeah, we're legally complied to deal with every homeowner. We can't, unless we cannot, they're elected representative of you guys. So you guys can speak for them, otherwise I have to go and consult all 200, I have to invite them all. It's up to them to show up.
But if all 224 decide that they're going to delegate to 5 members of those residents, then will you speak to that, or to them?
I'd have to come back to council to give me authority to do that, I think. Because it's a tough call, because I don't know how they got delegated, I don't know how they got representative. Like, we're legally complied because of the Municipal Act, and taxes are affecting individual properties. We're legally complied to engage and invite every property owner.
Yeah.
So that's,
You might have 150 people there,
that's fine, yeah.
and,
Yeah.
well,
Yeah,
okay.
that's fine. No, that's fine. If they want to make a working group, but the working group, again, it's one of those legal compliance issues that we can consult and with whoever, but maybe people who don't even live there want to show up, right? So, but it's
And,
going to impact them, right? So,
Sorry, just the other point is, if there's a conflict of interest here, if I have a relative that lives within this territory, do we have to declare that now, or is it later?
I would think at the time that the decision is going to be made, that's where you would
That's what you
declare.
Okay, thank you.
Councillor Kiley.
Yeah, my understanding, Peter, they have a roads committee made up of 3, 4 people, I think, I'm not positive. But, from what I was told today, again, it was not the author of the email we received, that they are going to represent the group. And I'm sure there'll be questions from the audience.
And that's,
Yeah.
they can choose to do what they wish to do.
Exactly.
I still have to open the doors to anybody that has property there. That's, I guess, what the distinguishing factor is. I can't be the one seen as disenfranchising a property owner, right? Because their only elected representatives that I know of are you guys. So,
Councillor Shamiak.
Yeah, Peter, it's not that easy because they had no election or they had nobody, like, okay, those guys, oh, we're leading this group, but there's 224 people there. I'm sure some people don't know who those guys are or don't care who they are neither. So, like, you're right. It has to be open to everybody, just like they do in the US or in the big city, and people ask questions.
and I did have a visitor today specifically tell me that one of those roads committees does not speak for them. Because they're not on that road, right? They're in other parts of the township, so.
You know, I look at the open meeting as one that it's, and that's really what you're looking for permission, is to start the process. To get some feedback, to decide how, from the feedback you get, how you'll go forward with this. It could mean subsequent meetings with representatives. Everything is not going to be solved on, what was that date, November?
14th.
You know, nothing's going to really be solved there other than to identify a process. And I think that's what you're looking for from us.
Yeah, what I'm trying to do is actually, there's anxiety in the community, that, especially the folks that own property here, there's a lot of anxiety, right? So having, like, the alternative is writing a report, coming to council and having council deliberate and having 224 delegates. That's the alternative. But that's improper way of doing public policy. So what I want to do is I want to consult with them, talk to them, say how this is where we're talking about, thinking of where we're going, this is what the rules are, this is what's changed in the last 35 years, because there's a whole bunch of educational stuff that's changed, and just have that conversation, right? You know, like it's just to have that conversation, challenge some perceptions, challenge some people's understanding of what they think or what isn't right, or challenge, maybe I need challenging, right? Some of the stuff I said, right? That we have some inaccurate numbers as we might be or whatnot. So it's just to have that initial conversation. From that, I don't even want to, that's one of the things today is I don't even want to make a recommendation because I don't know what I don't know, right? So.
You're just looking for a roadmap, right?
Right.
You're going to, and then go forward. from
And the
there.
reason it's very odd to ask council to seek direction to have a public meeting, because the administration can have a public meeting anytime on any topic, right? They do not need council resolutions. But the reason I did this here is specifically because of the sensitivity, right? It's because to give you a chance, right, to talk it here, and then go from here. And if you politically choose not to entertain this, you can kill it tonight, right? So again, it's a political decision,
Yeah,
right?
so-
And then that's why I'm giving that opportunity, so.
Yeah. And that this meeting is also open to any taxpayer in Kirkland.
Anybody. It's a public meeting.
It does affect everybody.
That's correct. Yeah, Harvey Kirklanders as well?
Everybody.
Yep, so.
Yes, Councillor Shamier.
I really like the idea, Peter, and the one thing people hate when they come to council is that they don't like all the rules they have. They have to sit there, we can't answer back, and we've seen a few times already in the last 2 months. They won't answer, but we can't because there's rules in council. This will be more open and I really like that.
And that's the intent. It's the intent to have a back and forth conversation, right? To answer some questions, to calm down some sensitivities, and for them to learn and for us to learn. Like you mentioned some stuff of historical stuff, right? So, you know, let's learn that. That might be incorporated as part of the final recommendation, if there is a recommendation, right? So.
Any other discussion, questions? I have a resolution that's going to be read, and then we can vote on it after that.
It's moved by Counselor Barker, seconded by Counselor Kiley, that council directs the Chief Administrative Officer to hold a public roundtable discussion with residents of Bernhardt, Morissette, and Harvey Kirkland to engage in a discussion about the process for tax rate modernization.
All in favor? Thank you, Peter. Item 6.2, Joanne, you're to talk to all the great things happening next.
We did have a request come in from Teachers of English as a Second Language Association of Ontario. They do send a request every year, and they're just asking for council to declare a week. So I have a resolution that's moved by Councillor Kiley and seconded by Councillor Barker, that council proclaim October 29th to November 24th, 2017 as English as a Second Language Week in and for the town of Kirkland Lake.
All in favor? That's carried.
The next item comes from the Timiskaming Mayor's Action Group and through the Township of Thornlow. Thornlow has been petitioning the Ministry of Transportation to put streetlights at the intersection of Highway 11 and 562, which is the intersection at Thornlow and Highway 11. And they're just asking for the area municipalities to support that resolution.
All in,
Oh, do you want me to read it? Sorry. It's moved by Councillor Barker, seconded by Councillor Kiley, that Council of the Town of Kirkland Lake supports the Township of Thornlow and the Timiskaming Mayor's Action Group in petitioning the Ministry of Transportation to address safety concerns by installing streetlights at the corner of Highways 11 and 562.
discussion? Councillor Kiley?
Yeah, Mayor Tony, from the Mayor's Action Group, maybe you have a little bit more information, but at the last TMA meeting, there was limited discussion on it. And Councillor Chamillard and I were both talking about this before the meeting. I can understand the concern coming off that Thornlow turn, but people coming north, especially transports in the winter, would have a very difficult time stopping by the time they hit that turn. I will be surprised if the Ministry of Transportation and Communication would approve it.
Like
And I'm curious what
Yep.
what the group said as the action group.
Yep. Joanne could better speak to the TMAG meeting of last time because I was not at the
Yeah.
TMAG meeting.
Earl Reed was the one who presented this, and I guess it has been an issue probably coming more off of the Thornlow Road onto Highway 11 than it is coming down Highway 11. All I can tell you is that TMAG did support it and sent it around.
But just like, they're asking for street lights, not traffic lights.
Yeah.
It's street lights to brighten up the area. A street light brightens up the area, traffic lights. It's street lights. Street lights.
Mhm.
Any other? Okay. All in favor?
Okay, the next one was a request that came through from the Township of Killarney, and it came through from AMO. They are asking for support for the changes to the Ambulance Act and the Fire Protection and Prevention Act. So what AMO is saying is that there are changes, and the province will be holding pilot projects in 2 communities, and so AMO is asking that the northern community please be selected as one of those, and also that there are costs that will be associated with the downloading of some of this services, and that they're looking for support that AMO please keep pushing with the province and bring back information to different municipalities. And I have a resolution. Do you want me to read the resolution first? So it's moved by Councillor Kiley and seconded by Councillor Barker. The Council of the Town of Kirkland Lake advises AMO that we share their concerns regarding proposed changes to the Ambulance Act and the Fire Protection and Prevention Act, and that the Council of the Town of Kirkland Lake appeals to AMO to request that the province includes rural northern municipalities as participants in the pilot projects, and that the Council of the Town of Kirkland Lake hereby requests that AMO keep all municipalities informed so that all stakeholders have input into these proposed changes, which may result in additional costs to the municipalities, such as increased training, legal liability, etc.
Discussion? For me, it's sort of a difficult one because we don't know what all the changes will be. But if they're just looking for, I mean, how can we agree or disagree to the changes when there's so many and we don't know which ones they're referring to? We certainly don't agree or disagree to all the changes, but they haven't identified which changes. So that sort of draws me back a little bit, but I think the fact that we are a member of AMO, and if what we're doing a resolution for is for them to keep us informed, then I'm okay with that. But I don't want to oppose or agree with any changes to it because I'd be lying because I don't know, there's so many changes involved in this. So I don't know if we can reword or if there's even an appetite to reword it. Councillor Kiley?
Yeah, my concern, Tony, as well, is fire department, most full-time fire departments now are 24-hour shifts. If they're gonna have paramedics on 24-hour shifts, the stress load is gonna increase dramatically. But not just that, I see it as a way of the province downloading that cost. That'll be the next step for the paramedic, being up at the fire hall, down to the municipality. And that's my biggest fear on it.
You know, part of the, even further to that, Councillor Kiley, is, there's talk now of fire medics. If that's one of the proposed changes in there, I'm not sure, but I know at recent meetings of NEOMA, there was talk on fire, and FINOM, there was talk of fire medics, which is certainly a way that we would be taking on some additional expense. But I'm not against supporting this resolution, but I'm just a little bit concerned that we don't want to give the idea that we're against all changes in that. And could we maybe
I think the resolution,
Yeah.
sorry,
just...
I think Joanne's gonna say something.
just that they're
The
not,
province is doing this. AMO, what Killarney wants is the AMO to make sure that they tell us what's going on right away. They're not gonna do any changes. It's the
No.
province that will do it. They also want to make sure that maybe a northern community could be involved in the two. They're looking at two municipalities. They would like maybe a northern community to be involved in one of those.
Yep.
So there's nothing wrong with this. This is actually what we should be looking at. And you said, I'm not sure. Well, exactly, you're not sure because people are not telling you.
Yep.
So Killarney wants to make sure AMO tells us what's going on before.
Yep.
So there's nothing wrong in this. It's actually really good. There's more information coming to us.
Yeah, it was just the wording, a little bit of the wording,
Joanne,
that's
that's
all,
what-
but I have
yeah,
no,
that's
that
my,
was my concern.
yeah, my understanding is that AMO's just looking for support to do further
I don't even
investigation.
think it's AMO. I
and
think it's Killarney telling AMO,
Killarney?
make sure you look into this and tell us what's going on.
Yeah, probably, because it did come from them,
Yeah.
yes.
Okay. Councillor Mino?
I had no problem supporting it as it reads. The thing is, like, I agree with Councillor Kiley that obviously there's a cost associated to the way that right now, the DSAB, they get the grant for this. Don't forget all the EMS is a grant. So what happens is the province can grant the DSABs of this province 50% of the costs at will. And they usually base their cost on the year prior a lot of times. So that means the other 50% is the municipality. So yeah, it's just one of those red flags and make sure that we have to
Yep.
keep that in mind because, but as it reads now, sure, I mean, of course, we want more information.
Yep. Okay. Sure. Oh, you, oh, yeah, sorry, I'll call the vote. All in favor? And that's approved.
Okay. The next item came from the Timiskaming Mayor's Action Group, and it had to do with outreach services for assisted living programs. And they're asking that the municipalities support petitions to the government to amend the regulation to allow family members to be primary service givers where possible. I guess in the north, they don't have the services as they do in the Southern Ontario district. And the grants right now go to primary caregivers who are under these programs, and they're asking that family members be considered if and where possible. So the resolution is moved by Councillor Barker, seconded by Councillor Kiley. The Council of the Town of Kirkland Lake supports the Timiskaming Mayor's Action Group in calling on the province to expand the eligibility criteria for grants for persons with disabilities to allow family members to be the primary caregiver when possible.
All in favor? That's carried.
The next request comes from the Kirkland Lake Mila Gold Basketball Club. There is a foundation called the Gift Funds Canada Foundation, and they are a group of donors who look for people to donate money to. And there is a donor who has offered to give a grant to the basketball club, but they're asking for the town of Kirkland Lake to partner with them in funding so that, because you need to have a charitable donation, charitable number. So this has been done before, and our treasurer did check it out, and it is possible for this to happen. So they don't know right now how much money has been donated to them, but they will find out if this is approved. So the motion is moved by Councillor Kiley and seconded by Councillor Barker. The Council of the Town of Kirkland Lake approves partnering with the Mila Gold Basketball Club in a funding application to Gift Fund Canada's Foundation.
All in favor? That's carried.
Okay, and the next item was a request that came through the mayor from Northern College. They would like to apply for a research grant, and they're asking for letters of support from municipalities. So I have a resolution that's moved by Councillor Barker, seconded by Councillor Kiley. The council supports the efforts of Northern College's Applied Research Department as they seek external funding to support the development of new technologies for emergency services in remote communities.
All in favor? It's carried. Okay, thank you. Item 6.3 is Director of Community Services. Bonnie, you're going to come up and speak to all the great things from the food market.
Thank you. So I was asked by council to come back at the end of the first year of the food market and give a report and to give some suggestions for whether we would like to continue in the future. So I do have some suggestions here. I'll let you know how we came to these ideas and let you give me some input after that. So the recommendations that I am bringing, that we do operate a food market again next year, and that we do charge vendors for the season. And the amount that we came up with was $225 for the season, and we're going to base that on 16 weeks, or $20 per week, because we do have a number of vendors that, based on their produce that they bring, it's a short season. So if they only sell blueberries, they can't come for the whole 16 weeks. And I would recommend that we do follow what we've done in other areas where we do have a surcharge if they're non-taxpayer. So what we're doing right now with our user fees in the Recreation Department is a 20% surcharge for non-taxpayers. So I would recommend that as well. So where these recommendations came from, we had hundreds of visitors each week. We did not survey the visitors per se, other than having staff on site and speaking to them. Very, very, very pleased, and would really like to see this continue. In terms of the pricing, we did do consultation with the vendors, which you do see some attachments here of, so you can see what information they've given us, and we did do a comparison of other markets around the north to try to get an idea of what do they charge. There is a bit of budget implication, so I want to identify that. So we did do radio advertisements, social media, and municipal update. There was no additional cost for those from what we already pay. So the municipal update is already paid. We added our ads to that. Social media doesn't cost us anything, and we do have a monthly bill that we do have from the radio station that we continue to do that with. For staffing, we did have some staff involved. So at the beginning, myself and Kim Clockers and Amberly Spillman were all involved as we tried to figure out how do we get this off the ground. We met with the health unit, we met with vendors. But once it got started, the only staffing cost that we had was we utilized the students that we had on site for the activity coordinator to be the staff on site. So typically, one of the full-time staff would be there at the very beginning, especially in the early weeks, to make sure there were no glitches. Once, it really was self-sustaining. It took care of itself. So our students that were already budgeted for, and actually were covered by grants this year, which was very nice, were the ones that were the staff on site in case anything came up. In speaking with the students, nothing came up. Of course, the day that if you wouldn't have a student there, something would, but we always had staff there. We had 13 vendors, and you'll notice from the survey results, there's some good data that they gave us from the survey results. I'm not gonna go through it all with you, but some of the key things I wanted to bring out, some of their ideas and their things that they thought maybe would help things. They want to see more vendors. It's a very big environment, so for those of you that have been and you see 8 or 10 vendors, they kind of get lost, so they want to see more vendors. We put lots of invites out there. We tried to keep it really open. We didn't have restrictions. We had some vendors worried, what if too many people are here that sell carrots? Will I sell all my carrots? But that didn't happen. Most people sold out. Most people were very thrilled with the vendors that the participants that they had in their booths. So they'd like to see other vendors. It was brought up, would you consider artisans? Would you consider crafts? So we just took this information. We thought that's something you may want to discuss. They had some great ideas about, can we do some contests? We'll put together a basket. Can it be a big giveaway? So there'd be no cost to us, a little bit of work. Maybe we'll make the ballots and the students will give them out, those types of things. Can we do some actual programming for the kids that come? And could our activity programmers do that? They absolutely could. So as the parents are shopping, could we have a little game of Frisbee, something that you can drop in and drop out? We absolutely could. Some of the areas for improvement, and they were ones that we recognized as well. It's a tough area to corral people. We know we have to have a better start time. We have to have a better drop-off time and a real clear start time. So we worked through that this year. Some people were sold out before we were officially opened, and that is a problem. We've got a few ideas in our head of how we control that better next year. And they said more promotion would be better. So those were the main things that came out. So just wanted to see if you had questions, thoughts, suggestions.
Councilor Kylie.
Yeah, Bonnie, from what I saw in attending, was very well attended. It was very well done, and I credit your department for taking this initiative on. I'm just curious, the number of vendors that were local as compared to out of town.
We only had 2 local vendors. So we
Okay.
did invite, and I can kind of see why they didn't come, but we did invite all of our grocery stores, mom and pop stores, bakeries, anybody that we thought could bring. And a lot of them said, oh, maybe for next year, some of the smaller ones. The grocery stores, I don't believe they feel a need. They've got their area already, but they were invited. But we only had 2 local out of everybody.
Well, I think the point about maybe next year will happen
Yes.
because I think they've seen the success of it, and this thing will grow.
Yeah.
So, well done.
Peter, go ahead.
Just a question, Bonnie. Was there any feedback given with regards to opening a Saturday morning market?
We did. We talked about dates, and Saturday is Timiskaming Shores. So all the vendors that bring a lot of their things are at the Timiskaming Shores area. We did ask them about day, and it was Tuesday or Wednesday are the only days they can come. Tuesday's tough for all of us council goers, but it works.
Councilor Shamiard.
Yeah, I think Bonnie was awesome. It was a great place. And you're right, opens at 3, but you get there at 3 and they're sold out. I was so mad a few times, but that's beside the point. Another thing we could look at, antiques. I know like in Hawkesbury, they had one forever, and it's Tuesday, and that's where it is. And it started small, and now it's huge. And basically, it's as big as the whole Civic Park. That's how big it is. But they have antiques. They have all kind of stuff. Food place. You said some people, like I see a lot of people selling stuff on Facebook, like cookies, and I don't know why those people are not there. I mean, they would sell their stuff so fast. There was a lady coming in. She was selling butter tarts, I think, and basically she was sold out
Yes.
every week. And they were open at 3, and by 4 she was going home.
Yes.
And I'm thinking, well, make more. I mean, I don't know, like 15, but I'm not in charge of her thing. But it's strange a bit the way they work, but.
Well,
it's
with a
what-
bit more lead time, I think we can encourage more of those people to
But I
come
don't think
out.
people in town know how popular it is yet, because they should be there. Even
Yes.
the local grocery store should be there, but at the end of the day, it's their choice. For example, YIG has that little donut thing at the entrance
Yes.
sometime. I mean, how many donuts he would sell there would be ridiculous.
Good point.
But anyway, congratulations, and it was well done.
Councillor Mino.
Yeah, this was a great idea and is also a successful one. My question would be about the artisan vendors. Like, could we not charge per table? Like in the old flea markets, they'll say
Yes.
$20 a table.
And that's kind of why we had a per day, per
Yeah.
week rate at the $20, so we could do that as well.
Because somebody might have like Jean-Guy says, some cookies or
Yes.
some items to sell that week, and that's it. They're just gonna be there one time, but at least get $20 off of them.
Yeah.
And they'll sell their wares, and they'll stick around too till 6:30, whatever it is,
Yes.
and then have more traffic. But I like the comments that people made. This is coming from them, so.
Yes.
Obviously, it's got nothing to do with us influencing this. This is, comes from the heart, and it comes from their participation there, so, I really like this. I hope we can keep it going, and, hopefully maybe a service club might wanna take charge in that aspect. That would be desirable.
Yes, yeah.
Yeah, certainly, it was a huge success, wasn't it? Anytime I went by, lots of shoppers, lots of vendors. Never really heard a bad word about it, which is unusual. Unless you're on social media, I guess, it's out there as well. But never heard, nobody personally came to me and said anything bad about it. But a number of people came directly to me to say how good it was and how much they're enjoying it. It was a huge success. I think I'd be remiss if I didn't mention also the market that took place, I think, every Tuesdays and Thursdays downtown. That too was a huge success. Sort of revitalized the downtown. It would be nice to see more of that going on as well. It brought people downtown. Both, there's certainly an appetite for outdoor markets, and it can only expand from there. But for sure, you and the crew should be very proud of how it ended up, the work that you've done. And from our initial meeting, if I can remember going back to when it was first presented, it sort of slanted in a different way, as I can remember a young lady here. I don't know if that lady's still involved, but she did a presentation. But how it's involved is how it should be.
Yeah, it's worked
It's
out
how
well.
the people want it.
Yeah.
So I just want to congratulate you as well and all the people involved. Thank you very much.
It's moved by Councillor Kiley, seconded by Councillor Barker, that council approves the continuation of operating the food market in 2018 and that the fees be brought forward in 2018 user fee bylaw.
All in favor? And that's carried. Item B.
The next one that's coming back to you is that there was a timeline on the last time that council recommended waiving fees for room rental for the gold miners. So that was waived in January 2 years ago, and it was for a 2-year period. So that's the reason this is coming back to you now. It's whether we are going to continue to waive fees for the gold miners for their rooms past December of 2017. So just a little bit of background information. The gold miners had come to council 2 years ago and asked for consideration of waiving fees for their rooms. They had done quite a bit of work in their dressing rooms to create them to the standard that was required in their minds for the junior team. And they had asked that in lieu of the money they put in, because now that becomes almost like a chattel, I guess, of the town, so that stays within the room, if council would consider waiving room fees, and they did for a 2-year period. So since then, they have actually changed rooms, so they've invested more of their own time and money into a new dressing room. When the gold miners started in Kirkland Lake, there was also a AAA midget team in Kirkland Lake, and they had the most desirable rooms. So the gold miners took other rooms and created them into the best that they could. Since we no longer have a AAA midget team, they've asked to relocate to that room. And really what it means is that the team as a whole can be together, and they find that's very substantial. But there is a dollar value to that. So that's the first part, is I'm just looking to see whether we are going to continue waiving those room rental fees. We do charge, just for background information, we do charge all of our users. It's about $3.50 a foot if you're youth, $5 a foot if you're adult. So skating club pays and minor hockey pays and all of our rec league play. So we do generate dollars from room rental. The second item was to see whether you wanted to continue upstaffing for our games. So what that means is for every gold miners game, they have a net system which requires, in between periods, 2 staff on to maintain the ice and drill the holes for their net system. And this is what is the requirement at the junior level. So we upstaffed, which means we brought an extra staff member on to all junior games starting a couple of years ago. And this information was brought to council, and they thought that was fine at the time. I'm just making sure, because we do not bill that back. So they pay a youth rate for all of their rentals. So I'm just asking to see if that's something you want to continue in the future. So there's 2 items in here.
Councillor Mino?
Have the gold miners come forward?
They have not. I'm bringing this
So
forward.
this is the first kick at the can
Yes, they have not
from
asked
council's
for
perspective?
waiving fees or anything, but just because it's ending, I didn't know if the
Yeah. Well, it's
intent
'cause
was to continue or not. They have not approached me.
I have sort of varying opinions on this one, like upstaffing, I think upstaffing, that should be the responsibility of those who are creating the upstaffing, in that sense, but also flexible in terms of the rental fee, because obviously we did grant it for a 2-year period on a trial basis, but I mean, I'd like to hear from the gold miners, or at least you have a meeting with them
Okay.
and establish, I mean, that's my opinion, but establish some kind of agreement where we're going with this, because this cannot be forever, I don't think. I think we needed to look at this after the 2-year period.
Yes.
And I think that, I believe, if my memory's right, the gold miners were asking for that delay until they have better grasp with their finances and so
Correct.
on. So we'd like to know where they're at now with their finances before I even commit to something like that. But unless council says, well, whatever. The other thing is, if my memory serves me right, we were supposed to perhaps either encourage them to try to have the players stay in the motel here locally to justify some of these savings. And I don't know if that's been done, so that's another thing I'd like for you to follow up with them, just to make sure.
We have worked hard with them on our sports tourism model, which would allow them to have some of their fees even waived
Yeah.
if they utilized hotels during their home games, and it has not happened.
Well, that's why they're not here to speak to it, so.
Correct.
If you could set something up and perhaps gather more information, up-to-date information, financial-wise, and where they're going. I'm not prepared to say yes or no on this one.
The question I have a quick question before I turn it over to council, is the gold miners, if you could just reacquaint me with this, are they a not-for-profit, privately owned organization? I think the word not-for-profit, are they registered not-for-profit, privately owned operation? I think that would play heavy on whether we, so we could find that out in negotiations.
Yeah, that would be something that I think you would talk to them about. I don't know
You don't know,
offhand
okay.
whether or not they
I didn't
are.
know if they'd applied
Yeah.
for
Um,
something where they qualified.
Well, as far as lottery licensing, no, they do not qualify for lottery licensing because majority of their players are over the age of 18, so they're not a youth group. So they would not deal with me for
Okay.
lottery licensing.
Councillor Barker.
Bonnie, would it be possible to draft up a summary of all the savings that they've experienced with sports tourism and any other over 2016 and 2017 years?
Sure. Yep.
Because I'd like to see that, just so we have a
Yep.
figure, an annual figure of how much savings the town has provided for them.
So when you say 2016, 2017, are you thinking one ice season or two full?
Two full ice
okay.
seasons if
Yeah,
possible, please.
Because our ice season spans.
That's true.
That's
Thank
so, yep, 2 years, yep.
Thank you, Bonnie.
Councillor Kiley.
Yes, I'm a season's ticket holder, so I do attend the games. They're struggling with attendance again. I think it's worse than last year. Everybody loves the winner, and they're mediocre, I guess. They're entertaining.
They're doing better now, I
Okay,
think.
they're in the middle of the pack. But I know they are struggling with their volunteer workers, and I think, I'm not blaming anybody whose fault that is, but there's people seem to be coming and going, but they haven't taken advantage of the sports strategy that we've had, because I don't think they've pushed it from the top. down. As far as the not-for-profit, I was told by the president that they are registered not-for-profit. Did I see documentation to that effect? No. But that's my understanding of what their claim is. I do support the team from a council standpoint. I do think they bring visitors to town. Very difficult to measure, but I'm hopeful that we can continue to assist them. There are other communities in Northern Ontario, such as Elliott Lake, Cochrane, that are subsidizing the team directly, substantially more than what we do. Maybe they can do that, they have the financial ability to do so, but whatever we can do, I would support. But I agree with Norm, we need more information from them.
Certainly.
Thank you.
Councillor Shamiard.
Yeah, Bonnie, I would go like Norm, but I would just finish the year. The next year will be a new council. They should decide what they want to do. We'll do our share this year. So basically, they fixed that room up, that Legion room.
Yes.
So that would be.
Minimally. They didn't have a lot
No,
of it
no,
to do
yeah,
because it was a
all-
very
yeah,
good
it was
room.
nice. But still, that would be fair for the rest of the year to be waived, which is January, February, March, and maybe April. Hopefully April. Hopefully April. But like Norm, also I would say that they should be charged for the up staff. I mean, I don't know why we never charge them. I don't remember voting on this, but I'm sure we did. It was their fault, really, if they need one.
The way that evolved was that when the new PEG system came into place, they started with a year of volunteers doing it. Because what it really entails is someone to move the net after the flood's done, take a drill the hole, put the PEG holder back in and put the net back on. So, I mean, you have to have someone who's gonna be reliable, who's gonna make sure they're there for every game, and they struggled with that. And after the year, they had asked the town to take that on. It is done by town staff in most places. Iroquois Falls was the only other community that I could find that did it with volunteers as well. And we felt that probably from a liability standpoint, it made sense that we did that process. And at that point, when it was presented to council, I don't think it came to a vote. It was just in the report to council. These are all the things, I think this is what you're looking for, but it was 2 years ago. These are all the things where we give them a break. And it was, the direction was carry on, so.
Peter, you wanted to make a,
Yeah, may I just recommend that for anything 2018, we defer that to the budget. So January 1st, we charge them normally, and then whatever council does for the budget, we can rebate them. Because I just don't, I just don't want to take it away. I don't want to lock in a decision for next year's budget in October, right? So that's just a suggestion.
But Peter, it's not that easy, because they have to know for their budget too what's going on. If they need $3,000 more, I know,
But I don't think they've requested this,
I know.
right?
No.
So, yeah, so.
They
Yeah.
did not request to have additional waiving. I don't know if they really remember that the waiving is complete at the end of December.
Well, they'll realize one day.
Well, they'd realize if they got the bill, but that's why I wanted to bring it in enough time so that if we changed our mind, that we could notify them and it wouldn't be last minute.
okay, and the only other question I have, Bonnie, is how this would affect the other groups that rent rooms at the complex right now. For example, a skating club. Are we setting a precedent? If we're doing it, are we doing it with every club? I don't know who else rents rooms at the complex, but I'm assuming it's a skating club. Have been doing it
So
for
minor
years.
hockey pays us $18.30 a year. Skating club pays us $36.83. Blast girls play us $8.16. That's all our youth groups, and we waive $56.88 for the gold miners. And then we have 7 men's or old timers leagues that rent space. So they're paying a higher room rental rate. We charge them $5 a square foot, and youth is $3.50. So they're paying between, depending on the size of their room, $500 and $1,600. So everybody else pays.
Everybody else pays.
Yeah.
Councillor Kiley.
Bonnie, do we know what, do you have the figure of the revenues that they actually pay us for the year?
No, not with, no, I probably do. Bear with me.
Okay, sure, Councillor Shamia.
Bonnie, so that room they fixed, the gold miners, now it's being rented to somebody else, or they still use it?
No, so now what we've done is, so.
No to what?
No, it's back in the mix as a regular
Okay.
change room. So
Yeah.
the room, we'll call it room 5 from your day.
Yeah.
That was the gold miners room last year. That's now back in the regular mix. The rooms to the back that they rented and they renovated, we're now renting to other users.
So there's revenue coming back from them, basically, because they're the one that did all the work. We didn't do anything of this.
We did not do any
No,
work.
they did all the work. So there is revenue coming back from the gold miners indirectly.
Yes.
And how
I
much
don't
it-
think I have that, Pat, with me.
You know
So
how much it is? It must be quite a bit, because that's a pretty big room.
what we're getting from the other, I can tell you, yeah.
Yeah, I knew that.
That one I have with me because it's current. So the back room, we're probably getting about $1,440 now. Now, the only thing just to keep in mind, that may not be the right room. We did relocate one of the rooms from what I felt wasn't the best room to give out to renters because it's attached to our sump pump room, and I just felt that there's a very high potential for water damage, and our staff have to walk through there. So we canceled that room and gave them the other room. So they're still paying, but we didn't get additional revenue.
Yeah.
So it's not
Okay,
new, it's
okay,
not
okay.
more money.
Okay.
It worked out better from us from a
Yeah.
standpoint of safety.
Okay, so there is a resolution, so we're going to, is there any more discussion? Oh, I'm sorry, Councillor Barker.
Can I make a recommendation that we defer this until we have more information to make the
That's what we're.
decision?
Yep.
So I have a motion it's moved by Councillor Barker, seconded by Councillor Kiley, that council defer the item of waived fees for the gold miners rental space to a later date in conjunction with the 2018 budget discussions.
All in favor? That's carried.
And I'll provide you with those things that you had asked for. I'll prepare another package in the meantime and have that additional information so you can help make the decision.
Okay. Okay, item 6.4, Ashley, you're going to come up and speak to a number of items?
Hello. Okay, so my first report is just to coincide with the bylaw that's being presented to council later tonight. It's to lease a portion of a laneway to Mr. Gadori, who owns or is, it's adjacent to the property for Northern Construction in Chappie Hughes. He's just looking to correct an existing encroachment of some material that he has on that piece of property. We have notified the adjacent landowner who had no concerns with this, so from my standpoint, it was a recommendation to proceed with that bylaw. The second report I have presented to here tonight is a repeal of 4 bylaws, basically just amending the names of the purchasers. So the sales are still going through. However, the way that we had written the names, so I think it was Kirkland Lake Incorporated versus Inc., those type of things matter, so they're just typographical errors. So we're going to proceed with amending those bylaws, making sure the correct names are in there, and then proceeding to sell the land. Again, that comes back as bylaw. The third, we did our tender opening for the winter sand. There was one bid of $17,670. As you know, winter sand is budgeted annually and required for road maintenance during the winter months. So this recommendation is to go ahead with the one bidder the person who bid on the project, which is DMYT Group. Is there any questions? Yeah, almost. And then the fourth one, I'm actually going to have Will, come up and help me out with this one. So there's 2 elements to this request. The first one was a reallocation of dollars from the I guess I'll start from the Miller paving. We have a 4-year Miller paving plan currently in effect. The way the agreement is written is that we're supposed to allocate a certain amount of money towards projects that are completed over a 4-year time frame. This year was a $298,000 contribution that we were supposed to pay. I think there was a little bit of misunderstanding of what of whether or not we actually had to pay the 298 now, or could it be done over the 4 years at any time. So we have gotten confirmation from Miller that we were supposed to pay the 298. The capital budget currently sits at 80,000 allocated towards them. So my request, because we're not going to be proceeding with the town garage roof, was to take $220,000 or $218,000 from that. And there was another thing that we didn't do.
There was the, we had, with the Connective Link funding
Yes,
for
sorry, the Connective Link.
119,000, and
Yeah.
then 200,000 for the roof.
That's right.
We're asking that those funds be reallocated so we can deal with some of these pressing matters. The garage floor, it has been examined. There's some pockets of vacuum, but we do have a very good plan in place to move forward to deal with that. We can do it, expedite that project immediately, actually. That would allow us then to protect some of our key assets like the fire truck, the vac truck, et cetera. They can't be left in the cold. It's an unfortunate mishap, but it's what happens as the assets get older and they haven't been maintained. In terms of the Miller project, it is a good project by its nature. It allows us to lock in what the cost will be. It has worked to our benefit. There has been, as Ashley said, a misunderstanding. The previous administration is not here to explain what happened, but we're committed to straightening this out and putting the relationship back on a straightforward path.
With respect to the Miller contract, for that money, we're supposed to get some milling and paving done. What's on the books as far as that?
If you look at the attached agreement, it actually spells out what is to happen on Project 1, Project 2, 2015, 2016, 2017, and 2018. It spells that out. Now, yeah, and we have received some of that. I think that did they go over last year, the previous
Yeah,
one?
so
Yeah.
at this point, we're playing catch-up. We've done more work than we paid them for.
In 2016, they did some of the work that had been allocated for 2017 as well, when they had the equipment here. So they didn't bill us, but it's due now.
We did see the mill and paving of Durrell. What were those? There's 4 streets in town that
Rand
did.
and that,
Yeah, we did
Uh,
see that happen, which was about $30,000 worth of work this year. And then next year, we're allocating, there's 196,000 remaining for the 3rd lift of Airport Road. So those are the only things remaining.
And I think if you look at the 2016, you'll see that they were doing some of the work for 2017 then. Probably
So somebody,
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah.
We're going through it pretty much with a fine-tooth comb now to make sure that we're getting what we need. We'll be meeting with Miller tomorrow to make sure that we are on the same page.
next.
Can I just get some clarification for the resolution?
Yeah.
The resolution is written that $218,000 in capital funds be moved from Connecting Link and the town's garage, but was there an extra $200,000 that was also supposed to be moved over? Or was it just the 218 from the Connecting Link?
So I think Connective Link is only 119,000. So the remainder of that will come from the garage roof.
Okay, so it's just a total of 218,000 that you're pulling over, or you're reallocating?
That's right.
Yeah.
Okay.
But then you needed money for garage.
For the garage was the remainder from,
Okay. So it's just 218 total?
200, no, you can
Two,
make
no,
me do math in
218 is
public.
what I need.
Yeah, okay.
Yes.
You
We
need extra.
$60,000.
So you need an extra 60.
We need the
Yeah.
extra 60,000 for the garage floor,
So really then it's 278,000
Yes.
is what we're asking?
using the draw from the 119 and the 200,000, yeah.
Sorry, I
Yeah,
wanted
no.
to make sure that was.
Yeah,
So
Councillor Mino.
this doesn't affect the levy, because we've got $115,000 on levy, and we got some gas tax money.
We're using what was
we got
allocated
reserve money.
in there. Yeah,
So you're just transferring everything, everything remains the same, there's no
that's what
money returning to the reserves because of, we didn't use it.
no, we're transferring the dollars over.
Okay.
So it's a motion that's moved by Counselor Barker and seconded by Counselor Kiley, that council approves the allocation of $278,000 in capital funds from the connecting link and the town's garage to the Miller 4-year paving plan and the repairing the works garage floor.
All in favor? That's carried. Okay, item 7 on the agenda is introduction, reading, and consideration of bylaws.
Moved by Counselor Kiley, seconded by Counselor Barker, that bylaw 17-101, being a bylaw to amend bylaw 17-046, setting tax rates for the year 2017 by resetting tax rates to 35% for Bernhardt and Morissette townships, be read a first, second, and third time, enacted and passed.
All in favor? And that's carried.
It's moved by Counselor Barker, seconded by Counselor Kiley, that bylaw 17-102, being a bylaw to appoint the ARB appeal and complaints representatives, repealing bylaw 17-074, be read a first, second, and third time, enacted and passed.
All in favor? That's carried.
It's moved by Counselor Kiley, seconded by Counselor Barker, that bylaw 17-103, being a bylaw to authorize mayor and clerk to execute a laneway lease agreement with Maurice and Janine Goudori, be read a first, second, and third time, enacted and passed.
All in favor? That's carried.
It's moved by Counselor Barker, seconded by Counselor Kiley, that bylaw 17-104, being a bylaw to amend bylaw 13-014, a bylaw to award banking services by increasing the town's operating line of credit to $4 million, be read a first, second, and third time, enacted and passed.
Discussion, all in favor? It's carried. Oh, sorry, yes, yeah.
The rate would be posted daily, whenever it's a credit line, so. Well, they're our banker. Yeah, yeah. We already have a $2 million line of credit, we're just increasing it to 4.
Why are we increasing it? Is there a reason?
Well, Councilor Chenier was away with his
Oh,
operation.
you already
so
discussed
that's
this? You already discussed that? Okay, I'm good then.
why. But no, Peter?
No,
Peter,
no.
please.
It's basically, there are 2017 financial pressures that, that we may be having. There are a lot of unknown costs that may be hitting our books, and this is basically it's basically there if we need it, to keep the lights on, to make payroll, if we need to dip in it, right? It's a line of credit. If we don't need it, we won't use it, so.
All in favor, just so I can.
It's moved by Counselor Kiley, seconded by Counselor Barker, that bylaw 17-106, being a bylaw to authorize mayor and clerk to execute documents related to the sale of 6 lots on King George Court and Porteous Avenue to Kirkland Lake Gold Incorporated, repealing bylaw 17-092, be read a first, second, and third time, enacted and passed.
All in favor? Certainly.
Do we know when they're gonna start building on this?
Well, the way I could answer you is to say that once this goes through the agenda today, and the papers are delivered tomorrow, action will begin.
The what?
The action will begin.
Yeah, like
But they're waiting on
I know
this.
where it is, but people should know what's going on.
Yeah.
So why don't you tell them more, no?
Well, we've already talked, but it's certainly the sale of property to.
Like people in town are
King
interested,
George.
they just wanna know what's going
Yeah.
on. Can you tell us more?
Well, the reason for tonight is the name change. We've already approved this in the past.
Okay.
But the lawyers, but the purchaser have noticed some errors in the
Yeah,
legal
yeah.
names of the property holders. They've asked us to change that. There hasn't been any action until this is changed. And then once this is changed, what we hope to see is construction on the King George site shortly. Probably start with foundations I think we'll see some houses rolling into town in the next short while.
So
They'll
before
be
Christmas, probably.
installed. Yes.
Okay, thank you.
But again, that's my understanding of it.
Yeah.
The decision is with
Yeah.
is with the owners of the property. But for sure, Councillor Shamyard, it's always good to spread the good news in town, isn't it? And thank you. All in favor?
Okay, it's moved by Counselor Barker, seconded by Counselor Kiley, that bylaw 17-107, being a bylaw to authorize mayor and clerk to execute documents related to the sale of 17 King George Court to Kirkland Lake Gold Limited, repealing bylaw 17-093, be read a first, second, and third time, enacted and passed.
All in favor? It's carried.
It's moved by Counselor Kiley, seconded by Counselor Barker, that bylaw 17-108, being a bylaw to authorize mayor and clerk to execute documents related to the sale of 10, 18, and 21 King George Court to St. Andrew's Goldfields Limited, repealing bylaw 17-094, be read a first, second, and third time, enacted and passed.
All in favor? That's carried.
It's moved by Counselor Kiley, seconded by Counselor Barker, that bylaw 17-109, being a bylaw to authorize mayor and clerk to execute a contract with DMYT Group for the supply of stockpiled screen sand for winter sanding, contract number R-500-17, be read a first, second, and third time, enacted and passed.
All in favor? That's passed.
It's moved by Counselor Barker, seconded by Counselor Kiley, that bylaw 17-110, being a bylaw to amend bylaw 16-045, naming members to committees of council by removing G. French Senior and adding R. Owen to the Committee of Adjustment, and repealing bylaw 16-045, be read a first, second, third time, enacted and passed.
All in favor? That's passed. Welcome aboard. Rick? Is there any notices of motion? None? Confirmation bylaw?
It's moved by Counselor Kiley, seconded by Counselor Barker, that bylaw 17-111, being a bylaw to confirm the proceedings of council at its meeting held October 17th, 2017, be read a first, second, and third time, enacted and passed.
All in favor? It's carried. Councilors' reports. Councilor Barker?
I just want to bring to the community's attention, there's a couple workshops going on for seniors, Francophone seniors, to be more specific, happening Friday at the 50 Plus Club and then Saturday at ECJV. For more information, they can contact either Helen Miller, Jinan Johnson, or the Assumption Church Rectory, and they'll be able to get more information. But they're workshops for seniors with regards to safety, abuse, and that kind of thing.
Okay, thank you for that. Okay. On Saturday past, I had the pleasure of representing the town at the Navaratri Festival 2017. It was an evening of celebration, of dance, and certainly some very delicious Indian cuisine. This is the third time they've had that in Kirkland Lake. There was guests from Englehart, New Liskeard, Mattawa, Iroquois Falls, Timmins, Cochrane, Hearst, well-attended Timmins. So we certainly, you could see the cars in the parking lots at the hotel following the festival, and I thank them on behalf of the organizing committee, on behalf of the town, for holding it here in Kirkland Lake, and encourage them to hold it the 2018 in Kirkland Lake as well. So it was an evening well organized and well run, and pretty well. A big part of the organizing committee was our own Dixit at the Physical Services, and it was a great evening. Myself and my family enjoyed it. Additional information, Stewardship Ontario, some information in the correspondence, and item number 12 is the adjournment.
It's moved by Counselor Barker, seconded by Counselor Kiley, that council adjourn its regular meeting of October 17, 2017, to an in-camera meeting to discuss one item regarding union negotiations.
All in favor? That's carried. Meeting adjourned.